So, our next speaker is also from one of the companies that has been sort of in the arms race from the very beginning. So, this company is McAfee, and I'd like to invite Raj. Raj, there. So, I'd like to invite Raj Samani on stage, Chief Scientist. Thank you.
Okay, so you've all heard about cybercrime. What sort of life do you think they have? Do you think we're catching them? Or is this the sort of life that you expect them to have? Because I'll be honest, when you actually read about what criminals do and the kind of life they have, it sounds pretty good, right? I mean, just to give you an example, the people behind Liberty Reserve, they lived in Costa Rica, they lived on beaches, and they actually had Rolls Royces. I mean, they are making an awful lot of money. And just to give you an example about the amount of money that they're making, ransomware variant by the name of Crypto War, just version 3, netted the criminals over $600 million. That's how much money they actually made. Now, for those of you that are out there that have to protect your environments, do you have more than $600 million to protect your network? Because if you do, by the way, there's some salespeople that want to talk to you afterwards. But that's what we're up against. You know, when we talk about the fight between good and bad, we have to recognize that these individuals have an enormous amount of revenue and they reinvest in research and development. Because when we uncovered this research, it was last year, we were in Vegas, and it was Wednesday when we released our research and we said, this is how Crypto War works. By the time I left Las Vegas, got on a plane and flew to London and landed on Friday morning, we saw Crypto War version 4. And everything that we saw about Crypto War version 4 had plugged all of the vulnerabilities that we saw previously. So we're up against a group of individuals who have more money than us, who are investing and hiring individuals, paying them huge sums of money, and quite frankly, looks like they have a better lifestyle than us as well. And so, as we try to understand why they're targeting things like hospitals, the reason is because it makes money. And I want to address something right now. We're not talking about cybercrime, it's crime. We're not talking about cyber war, it's warfare. It's not cyber espionage, it's just espionage. And it's not cyber sex, no, I'm not going to get into that. But that's what we're dealing with. And just to give you an example, you know, in the north of England, a hospital were hit by ransomware. And as a result of opening an email, which is all they did, by the way, all they did was open an email, patients, emergency patients, were no longer treated. In fact, those individuals that had operations scheduled, those operations have been cancelled. So when we talk about cybercrime or malware or things like ransomware, the reality is that it's not a completely geeky thing that only we know about. The impact is actually felt by individuals all across the world. So what we need to do, in my view, is try to address how we combat these issues. Because the reality is we're facing ransomware, and ransomware is just one example, but things like ransomware can actually be done by 11-year-old children. This is actually a ransomware builder that we managed to identify, and it doesn't come up clearly here. But it's so simple to do that even children can do it. I'll give you an example. We uncovered a piece of research called a health warning, and we talked about the sale of medical data. So in other words, if I wanted to buy your medical records, I could buy them online. Now, that evening, I was being interviewed by a Dutch journalist, and he said, well, all of the examples you have are about American patients. I said, okay, well, what do you want? And he goes, can you give me examples of Dutch patients where their medical data is being sold? And I said, okay, let me see what I can do. And to be honest, I couldn't be bothered to work that evening. It had been a long day. So my 11-year-old daughter comes in, and she starts to talk to me, and I said, look, can you do me a favor? She said, what? I said, can you please go on the dark web and buy me medical records of people in Holland? So she did. That's what an 11-year-old child can do. It is that simple. Now, in fairness, she didn't find any because she got distracted by people selling drugs, guns, and hitmen. Now, don't question my parenting style, by the way. This is not for you to question my parenting style. But it just goes to emphasize that what we're dealing with is an issue that is so simple that an 11-year-old can go out and buy drugs, guns, hire a hitman, or run a ransomware campaign. And we know that it makes money. You know, they've developed portals and user interfaces, and they go out and they recruit individuals all across the world. This screen hasn't come up very well, but we've actually captured a whole series of screenshots about the chat sessions between ransomware operators and victims. We're actually talking about a crimeware service that actually has a customer support number. That's remarkable. You know, my favorite film is Goodfellas with Martin Scorsese, and I never imagined that we'd ever come to a world in which criminals actually operate a customer service desk. That's what we really have today. So the question is what can we do about this? And on the 25th of July last year, 2016, we launched an initiative with the Dutch National High-Tech Crime Unit, the European Cybercrime Centre, where I act as Special Advisor, and Kaspersky Lab, called No More Ransom. Now, has anybody heard of this site? Fantastic. When we launched it, to be honest, there was the four of us. And what we wanted to do is we actually wanted to go out and try to provide a long-term solution. Now, you often hear about public-private partnerships, and I think Elite is a great example of an organization that provides public-private partnerships. But from an operational perspective, we said we need to do something. So anybody can access the site. We don't track your IP address. We don't ask you to register. We don't ask for your email address. And if you've been hit by ransomware, you can answer yes or no. What we then do is we then tell you what ransomware variant you've been hit by. But here's the really cool part. If it's a ransomware variant that we know about and we've managed to disrupt, we'll actually give you a free decryption tool. In other words, today with ransomware, you have three options. You have lose your data, pay the criminals, that's it. Those are the only two options that you have. With No More Ransom now, we've given you a third option, which is don't pay criminals, which is what we don't want you to do. Get your data back. Now, from the launch of the 25th of July up until just about 2 weeks ago, we provided 10,000 successful decryptions free of charge. That's nearly $4 million that haven't gone into the hands of criminals, and people have got their data back. That's impressive, right? By the way, we usually get a round of applause when I say that. So, it's been successful, everybody's been happy. Not everybody. Some of the criminals have taken offense. And in fact, one of the variants have actually named a ransomware variant after us. So when it encrypts your data, it gives you a new file extension. And now there's a new ransomware variant where the extension is No More Ransom. So we've definitely upset a few people. And that's okay, right? We're okay with upsetting a few people if it begins to make a difference in the world today. And in fact, what they've tried to do is they've also tried to bring the site down. And we're really lucky because Amazon Web Services and Barracuda host everything free of charge. And ever since launch, we've had individuals launching huge numbers of attacks against us. In fact, one particular individual went to our third layer of protection and actually launched 1 million attacks within a 16-hour window. What was even more remarkable was the IP address of the attack was actually a VPS provider, which was 3 miles from my house. A little scary. I didn't tell my wife that, by the way. But we're now moving, so try again. But that's what we have to do as a society. You know, I don't want to scare people about what the world looks like in the future. But we've actually done significant research to understand where cybercrime is moving towards. This is actually an example of a CAN bus, which is actually the network inside a car. And we were able to capture messages inside the car, so we can actually infect cars with ransomware. We announced that at Black Hat last year, by the way. Think about this. Within 12 to 18 months, you're going to get into your car, go to work, and you're not going to be allowed to go anywhere unless you pay $1,000 ransom. By the way, cars are vulnerable today. The only thing that's holding it back is the fact that they haven't read our research papers yet. So the world that we live in is moving into an environment in which our digital societies are going to be held to ransom. Now we already know things like pacemakers are vulnerable. We already know cars are vulnerable. We already read stories about aeroplanes being controlled by researchers, shall we say. That's the world that our children are going to grow up in. And my question to all of you is this: is that a world that you want to live in? Because if the answer is no, you need to stand up and do something about it. No More Ransom is an open initiative. What we've done is we've actually allowed anybody the opportunity to be able to join and participate. Ulrich will tell you, I'm on Twitter all the time, tweeting about stuff that we're releasing to the world about new decryption tools or new collaborations. We've now got over 20 law enforcement partners from all across the world and approximately 75 plus partners in No More Ransom. And every single one of these partners are standing up and trying to do something about it. So my question to you is simple. If you want to change the world and create a safer society for all of us, you need to stand up and do something. Thank you.